Good evening and welcome to a brand new show of Markets Tomorrow. I'm Nikunj Dalmia. Very ugly Tuesday. Markets were nervous in the morning, but a 200-point cut on the Nifty was something which nobody was anticipating and really expecting. Can we sugarcoat today's market action? Tanveer, the answer to that is no.
Trouble Tuesday actually for the markets. In fact, we're going to be talking about what happened in trade earlier today, down 2.5% for the benchmark indices. For the broader markets also we fell in line with global market performance. But over the next 30 minutes, we'll make sense of how you can approach the markets given the volatility at these levels. Voices on the show lined up include Anant Shirgankar of UBS, Harsha Upadhyay of Kotak AMC, Tushar Pradhan of HSBC Global Asset Management, and R. Shiv Kumar of Axis Mutual Fund. Not just that, Mayuresh Joshi, Fund Manager Angel Broking, and Sandeep Wagle will take you through how you should approach trade tomorrow, what should be your high conviction investment, as well as trading ideas. So a snapshot coming up over the next 30 minutes. But because really it drills down to what really led to this big sell-off, and we must highlight that for the benefit of our viewers, what really caused this uneasiness in the market.
Tanveer, a 2% cut or 2% plus cut on the Nifty will look like a big number on absolute terms, but this is in line with what global markets did. But if I look at India specifically, well, there were some factors which were not working for us. Number one, the macro data was not that impressive. It just challenges the basic thesis that Indian economic recovery would be very swift and it will be very sharp. That's not happening, and that ain't going to happen in a hurry. There was sell-off across European markets in the mid-afternoon trade. Let's also point out what's happened to crude. Crude has made a jumbo comeback in last 2 days. And then there are serious redemptions which are clearly visible in some of the ETFs and emerging market ETFs. So a couple of factors, they came together. The good thing here, Tanveer, is that the news flow globally from China, from any of the developed economies, from the European Union has not really deteriorated. So the news flow is on our side, but volatility, Tanveer, is the name of the game, and I'm afraid volatility is here to stay. It appeared to me last Friday that volatility, had subsided, but this week market action just tells you that it's too early to really call a market bottom.
Oh yes, indeed. And what's playing up on the market's mind is also the rebound in oil prices. Aside of that, within the internals of the market, leverage unwinding in PSU banks was a major drag for the bank Nifty, was a major drag for all the index PSU banks, as also some of the private banks that had a bit of a rub-off really on that pocket. The big question that we are asking, and Nikunj will perhaps try and put more perspective, but this is where we're going to be focusing on over the next 30 minutes. Will the Nifty retest its last week's low of 76.60? Sandeep Wagle, Mayuresh Joshi join us to answer that question. Good evening to both of you. And Mayuresh, I'll start off with you. What's your own sense on where and how much the market could lose from here?
Evening, Tanveer. I think clearly Nikunj has concisely put the entire thing in perspective from a global standpoint. And again, I think the softness in the markets might just continue. So another 4-5% to say the least cannot be ruled out. Clearly, I think what would also deter the markets going forward would be weak corporate earnings continuing into Q2. And if that persists, I think the earnings recovery might just get delayed by 6 more months. So how the capex cycle revives, how the investment cycle revives is key. But I think global cues is something that is going to create a huge overhang on the markets, and unless we see some amount of stability there, I think the markets will remain soft, at least from a short-term perspective.
Sandeep Wagle, what happened today was unfortunate. We fell by 200 points on the Nifty. But do you think today's market action is a telltale sign, more like an harbinger of what lies ahead? And are we on course to retest the recent low of 76.60?
Nikunj, I would think so. What has happened today is a reversal of what we saw over the last 3 days or 4 days from the time we moved from a 76.70 to say 8100. And that was not an ordinary move, mind you. Now, in retrospect, in hindsight, it is very easy to predict. But the way it crossed 79.50 and stayed above that for 3 days, I don't think anybody could be termed as, making a mistake in terms of the bulls showing strength. That is not so. There is something which has definitely come out today itself, which has negated all the positive things that have happened yesterday. Now, whatever said and done, that is history. 79.50, 79.40, that crucial level, it has cleared in 1 day. And once that happened, 7,900, 7,800, all those levels were taken out. And now very clearly, we will be on course to breakdown of that 76, 70 levels which we made some 7-8 days back, and probably even break that. Now what level will we go down to, I don't know, but I think 7500 would be my next target. And what is more important is 7950 on the upside will not be crossed. That is what the pattern is suggesting. So whatever bounce back we get currently from 77.85 cannot last for maybe more than 100, 120 points.
Banks were the pressure point for the market. And Mayuresh, come in on that space. I mean, it's pretty much been traditional. When the market falls, you have the Bank Nifty to blame. And today's session was not an exception to that.
Oh yes, and clearly I think if you look at the carnage that we've seen across private or public, I think it has been quite horrendous to say the least. But clearly I think the private sector space, in our opinion, should hold out. Even in a weak economic cycle, I think the earnings growth did hold up for a lot of these guys. And though I think it tapered off a little bit in the case of HDFC Bank, clearly I think the strengths lie with the private guys. So I think in terms of asset quality, in terms of capital adequacy, in terms of their branch network, in terms of their credit growth. And again, I think if you talk about how credit costs are panning out and how credit growth is happening, they have estimated higher credit costs at least for the next couple of quarters or the better part of FY16. So if you account and take everything into cognizance, I think private guys are still looking better. They've corrected a meaningful lot from the highs that we'd seen a few weeks back. So I think a partial entry into the private space, names like Axis, Yes Bank, I think they're looking pretty attractive at this point of time. And I think they have no relation with what the globe will do. I think it's more domestically driven, at least for these banks, from a short to medium term perspective. So I think the correction that we're seeing is more in line with how the global markets are reacting at this point of time. But in terms of cyclicality, I think they will bounce back if positive signs are displayed over the next few weeks.
Private banks corrected. They corrected sharply, and typically when the bluest of the blue chip boys they correct, you would ask yourself one question, which is that what's going wrong and what could potentially go wrong. HDFC Bank, I frankly don't recall when was the last time HDFC Bank fell on very strong delivery based selling. On it closed at 1,000 rupees, but the cut was sharp. ICICI Bank has been a ranked underperformer. Kotak Mahindra Bank, the other one. Let's look at the intraday graph here for Kotak Mahindra Bank, please. Very widely owned by institutional investors. 6% off. Sandeep Agle, how should one read into today's selling in Kotak Mahindra Bank?
Nikunj, I had a sell in Kotak Mahindra Bank in the 230 show, and I maintain that selling should come in tomorrow. It will break the crucial 600 levels, and I think 575 to 580 would be my next target. So at a current level of 610, 612, I don't see the stock crossing 620. In case there is a bounce back, that is an opportunity to sell. And it has broken a very, very important support at 620, not only the prior swing low, but June's swing low in mid-June, which is from where it had bounced back. So this is one of the weakest stocks or will be an underperformer in the coming few days.
Viresh, between HDFC Bank and Kotak Mahindra Bank, which is a better stock to buy? Because these are good franchises. 5%, 10%, that's it, and they'll bottom out. Is it time to nibble? And if yes, which one?
So clearly, Nikunj, I think Kotak is not under coverage, but HDFC Bank is something that we'll still prefer out of the large cap names. And yes, I think the valuation premium that is derives is justified to a certain extent. As I said, the earnings slowdown from 30% to 24-25% was justified because of the general economic slowdown that we had witnessed. But generally, if you see, the asset quality is pretty strong, the capital adequacy is strong, and I think the client retention is extremely strong in HDFC Bank. So I think that the bank looks quite stable on all counts, and though I think valuations might look a tad bit more expensive compared to the other private peers, it is one bank that we'll continue to prefer on declines.
Okay, gentlemen, stay on with us. Lots more to discuss over the next 20 minutes or so. We'll take a break right now, but as we do so, here are Anant Shirgaonkar of UBS is worried about outflows from emerging markets, which have hit record levels. He, however, remains overweight on India on hopes of policy reforms. Here out his preferred bets as well.
We are overweight India, we like India in the emerging market space and in the APAC universe. So clearly India stands as one of the most favored economy and markets. For India's strategy, I think we haven't really lowered our target for now. So we're still standing at 8600, which was, mind you, one of the more conservative targets as compared to some of the other targets which were in the market. And all along we've been pointing this out, saying that the bigger overhang on the Indian markets is the disconnect between the earnings growth that the Indian markets are showing versus what the consensus is expecting, and that concern still remains. We are standing at about 10% growth for full year of F16, and therefore we believe that over the next 1 or 2 quarters this consensus growth estimate will flow down from 17% odd to closer to our estimate of 10%. Given that as the overhang, we think that would act as some kind of a headwind for the Indian markets going forward over the next 1 or 2 quarters. I think financials clearly stand out, and within financials we are clearly preferring private financials, private financial names wherein the asset quality issues are better managed. Beyond that, I think we are positive on some of these defenses which offer growth, like say a telecom or pharma, wherein we think that there could be growth over the next 2 to 3 quarters. 2 to 3 years, we are clearly underweight the IT sector. What we think is happening here is that, one, the demand is under pressure, and can be seen from the budgets which came through for the year, which were flat to slightly negative. Consumer staples led by domestic consumption is what we are underweight on, and partially also because of valuations which are rich given the slowdown in growth that we are going to see over here. Property is something that we would like to stay away from, given that quite a few of the balance sheets seem to be stretched, and there isn't enough clarity about property demand and as well as property prices. So I think these are some of the sectors which we don't like over here.
Well, ugly Tuesday for Indian markets, but are we in for a better Wednesday? Well, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Markets Tomorrow. As of now, the global indicators are not on our side. There is a lot of nervousness. Crude remains volatile, and I think volatility is still very, very disorderly. I am worried about the disorderly behavior of market. It's not reacting to a news. It is not really reacting because of an event. Right now, there are classic forces of deleveraging which are at play, because emerging market expectations have got reset, and the money is gravitating from emerging markets to developed markets, and especially back into US Treasury bond. No one knows that how long and how much more this scenario is likely to continue. However, we know that tomorrow morning markets will react to auto dispatch numbers. And Mayuresh, TVS Motors was a miss. 1% jump, that's it. Means one of those performing stocks with a 1% growth, the stock will take it on the chin tomorrow.
Probably, and again, I think if you look at the entire two-wheeler pack, the monsoons have not panned out well, so there's definitely going to be volume degrowth happening on a lot of these stocks. How realizations will pan out, what kind of discounting happens over the next few months is to be seen. So again, I think if one really talks about how auto numbers have stacked up, four-wheelers is something that we still find comfort in. Maruti's numbers were a little bit disappointing when you talk about what the poll was estimating, but clearly I think if you talk about an earnings trajectory, we're expecting 36% in terms of earnings growth for Maruti, cash on its books, and clearly the kind of product profile that it's got, that should augur well. So in our opinion, I think Maruti on declines within the four-wheeler space is something that we'll still recommend. And based on valuations, I think Tata Motors, which in our opinion has discounted a large part of the China slowdown.
On the flip side, you had a Bajaj Auto. Now that the numbers looked excellent there, the trajectory has been decent, but they've had their own set of issues. But that stock stood out in trade, so that was up about 1%. And Ashok Leyland, this one continues to defy gravity, at least over the last 6 months. If there's any kind of show of demand, then it's for Ashok Leyland, and it's really for the CV units, commercial vehicle units essentially. The stock has done phenomenally well over the last 6 months, but in today's session was down 3%. Sandeep, on both these stocks, the trend?
Well, Ashok Leyland, I think we'll see levels of 82 to 80, somewhere around that. It is closed at 87 or something. Yes, the weekly, monthly charts are not that negative. So in that sense, small downside. Bajaj Auto, I will say yes, in this kind of a market, it is holding on to. So definitely it is not weak. I think 2150 is a very strong support which it may not break. And in case that doesn't happen, the move towards 2400 when the Nifty reverses or the markets reverse, that is very likely. So as a defensive ploy, I would buy a Bajaj Auto on a correction.
Mayuresh, good old Pharma had a good Monday, a flat Tuesday. Pharma is still not correcting. Is it defensive? Is this classic defensive action in nature?
Oh, yes, I think in volatile times, I think pharma and IT is something that you look forward to. But I think pharma is something that has been far more resilient this time around, because I think the earnings trajectory there is looking far better. So clearly, I think in terms of valuations, a lot of the pharma stocks have run up in our opinion. So for instance, Lupin, Cipla, if you take a 1 year forward P multiple, I think they are very close to their long-term averages. But clearly, I think if one needs to be selective within the pack, and within that pack itself, I think the large cap name Sun Pharma is something I'll continue to prefer. Within the mid caps, Dishman came out with excellent set of numbers. We were liking this stock from lower levels. We still continue to like that. Our own take is that the kind of capex plans that Dishman would have over the next 2 years will be greatly reduced to around 40-50 odd crores. The asset turnover ratios have improved drastically. The ROCs have improved drastically if you take a year-on-year comparison. And clearly, I think there are other businesses, including CRAMS, including their vitamin D business, including the Carbogen Amsys business, which has a decent order book. That should derive greater margins going forward. So again, I think Dishman and Aurobindo from the mid-cap pharma space is something we'll continue to prefer.
Okay, fair enough. Yatin Mota joins in with a quick list of stocks, ready Rekna actually for tomorrow's session on stocks to watch out for. Yatin?
Well, as far as a few auto names are concerned, Nomura has come out with a note, and clearly Ashok Leyland is something that they're talking about. They have downgraded the stock to a neutral from a buy rating. They have put a target price of 93, and clearly they say that the stock price is currently factoring a huge recovery as far as the commercial vehicle volumes are concerned. In fact, if you look at Ashok Leyland versus Tata Motors and Mahindra & Mahindra, they provide a better valuation support and a risk-reward ratio. So clearly, most of the brokerages have been turning negative as far as Ashok Leyland is concerned, and we are seeing that correction factoring in the stock price as well. As far as FMCG names are concerned, HSBC has initiated a coverage on Emami with a target price of 1500, and clearly they say that the kind of brands that they are consolidating in the marketplace augurs well for the growth. In fact, they say that the pace of the wealth creation that we are looking at for Emami is quite sustainable, and hence they have been quite bullish as far as this FMCG name is concerned.
Sandeep Aglia, what are your top ideas for tomorrow?
Nikunj, I would go with the sell in a Kotak Mahindra. We already talked of it. I would talk of the levels. A stop loss of 630, target of 585. And a sell in a Apollo Tyres, stop loss of 173.50, target 162.
Mahesh, same question to you. Your high conviction investment ideas, name us top three.
So clearly, Tanveer, I think we're still continuing with the same theme: private sector banks, IT companies, and we're very, very selective when it comes to the mid-cap universe. So something like a Treehouse Education is something we're liking at this juncture. Clearly, I think it's got asset-light model. The kind of top-line growth that one expects over the next 2 years can be quite stupendous, 25% in our opinion. The EBITDA margin expansion should also be quite significant because of their expansion to tier 2, tier 3 cities, which is lower rental costs. And the kind of expansion that it's seen probably in terms of the QIP raised, reduction of debt, improved cash flows, that should augur well for the stock. So Treehouse Education is something that we are liking probably on declines at the current juncture.
Thanks very much, both of you, for taking out the time and making sense of the markets for our viewers. Hopefully, tomorrow's session will bring in some more sanity for the markets. But we wrap up the show. Here are top fund managers in conversation with Nikunj earlier on in the day. We are, of course, rolling out our new initiative, Nivesh India, in tie-up with NSE. Hear them out on the sidelines of that event on what they make of the market situation and where they see the markets headed.
You compare equities with any other asset class, for example, the tax advantage that the equities give is phenomenal. There is no other asset class which gives you similar tax advantage. And also in terms of the returns over a long period of time, nothing else can beat equities.
When we put money in fixed deposit, we know the assured return. When somebody is investing in debt instrument, the downside is protected. In property, they never lose money. That's the mindset. Equity never gives you an assured return. So why should one invest in equities?
If you look at it on a holding period of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, there's no downside in equity. And I think that's once we need to move horizons. We need to start thinking not in terms of the returns for the next year, but the compounded returns over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And over the last 10 years, for example, the markets have given you 15% per annum, and that's on indices.
Common fear when I meet a lot of investors and some of our viewers is that I've never lost money in property. I've never lost money in my gold investment. But somehow, I have lost money in stocks.
I think all those investors who cannot put full time into stock markets, I think it's better to come through mutual funds where there is a professional fund management team which handles these issues, and also there is an in-house research team which supports that fund management team. and you will be able to go through these volatile phases without much of heartburn.
If US will sneeze, the rest of the world will catch a flu. If China will crack, earthquake would be felt across geographies. How do you defend India's standing versus what is happening in the world?
No, I think having been in the markets long enough, it's a very simple question to answer. While in the near term, these linkages are very, very dramatic, in the long run, stock prices are only a slave to earnings. So unless there is something which causes the external event to have a problem on your earnings, there is no real permanent impact.